Viewers, a good day and welcome to 284 Media. We're coming to you live and direct out of Tortola in the beautiful British Virgin Islands. I want to touch on a topic that's a very sensitive topic, marriage. A lot of us have been married for a number of years, yet there's some challenges, there's some success, there's some failures, and we are here coming to you live and direct out of the beautiful British Virgin Islands, talking to the one and only Dr. Joycelyn Hoyte. Her and her husband have been married for 35 years. You pastor the First Assembly of God Church in Lower State, and we're talking all things marriage. You have your new book that's being launched, and it's a very honest conversation, Dr. Hoyte, and we're going to get into that details, and we thank you so much. Viewers, all this and more after a word from our sponsors. You're watching 284 Media.
The win! Oh!
What are the hell?
I'm freaking out!
Is time.
284 Music.
Coming to you live and direct from the beautiful British Virgin Islands.
What's poppin', what's really good, what's happening, what's up?
Davis has won it for the Lakers!
Viewers, welcome back. You're watching 284 Media out of Tortola in the beautiful British Virgin Islands. I am so honored and privileged to be speaking with the lovely Dr. Joycelyn Hoyte, the First Lady of the First Assembly of God Church in Lower State, Tortola, British Virgin Islands. Recently, Dr. Hoyte, first of all, welcome to 284 Media.
Thank you, Ron, for having me.
It is my absolute pleasure. Recently, you launched your new book, your first book, which was launched on your 35th wedding anniversary.
Yes.
Now, we're going to get into the book, but you've been married for 35 years. Throughout that 35 years of blessings, you've seen, I'm sure, a myriad of challenges, highs, lows, a lot of emotions. You are one of the, I would say personally, shining examples of not only first ladies, but womanhood and marriage, and you exemplify, very honest, very sincere. When you look back at 35 years of marriage, when you look back at all that it entails and has transpired, what is it? What are your feelings and sentiments?
I'm actually very happy to be enjoying marriage. From young, I wanted to be married. And I'm actually experiencing, I have a lot of stories. I tell people that this is my wedding band, this is my 20th anniversary ring, this is my 25th anniversary ring.
So I want to get to that because you have your wedding band and you have your different 20th anniversary, but you're wearing them on different rings.
Different
so we're going to get to that.
Yes. So I tell them between all of these, there are lots of stories.
Okay.
I've had joys.
We're going to get to those stories.
I have challenges. Yeah. But I'm actually happy to be married. I am a testament that marriage works. And I want to be an advocate for successful marriages.
Amazing. Experience the marriage of your dreams. What does that mean? We're going to get into the book, but what does that mean?
It means that for most of us, when we think about marriage, we think of happiness, we think of joy, we think of satisfaction, we think of, unity. And that is generally what people think about marriage. And I want people to know that it's not just to be something that we think about, but something that we can experience and we should experience. So the book is written to help people to know that you don't just have to dream about this. You can actually live it and experience it.
One of the beautiful things I think about your book, not only in being married, but you are also a first lady. Yeah. And I think a lot of persons in the general public negate or really, they don't appreciate the fact that not only is being a wife or husband tough, but being a pastor or first lady is also difficult. When you look at the perspective of running a household and a church, tell us about that.
It's very demanding. It's very demanding on both ends. And I still work, I have a job as well, 8 to 5 job, and I'm a mother of children, and so I'm a pastor full time. So all of that is a lot of work. Every role is very demanding. But in all of it, we have to keep priorities. We have to know our limitations. We have to know what we can handle. We have to know that we are not perfect. We have to know also that we can be ourselves. We have to be ourselves. If we are walking a road that it's not of us, it's not us really, that we are walking in someone else's shoes, is very uncomfortable.
Okay.
But for me, in all the positions and all the roles that I play, I enjoy what I'm doing. And so I'm giving everything my 100%, but I also know that there are times when I have to give other aspects greater priority.
Writing a book is not easy.
No.
When I read your book and I went through the pages, it is vulnerable, it is intense, it is honest, it is sincere.
Yeah.
You talk about a lot of subjects that the average marriage or person would not want to speak about. Tell us about some of the chapters that are in your book.
The chapters.
And some of the areas that you cover.
I've the very first chapter, I think, is my longest chapter, which is the right start. And I think I put more into that one because I believe if you're going to get to chapter 10, you have to start right on chapter 1.
Okay.
In between that, I've discussed on after the ceremony. And the book the chapters kind of run connecting to one another. So after the wedding, then after the ceremony, because I want people to understand that the ceremony is only a couple minutes, but the lifetime we should invest more time into the life after the ceremony. So I put a little bit into that. Then I talked about children, and then I talked about communication.
Yeah.
I talked about money. I talked about treasuring each other, cherished moments, treasured possessions. Then there's a chapter that in chapter 6 I talk about until death do us part. That part is 4 persons who have lost their spouses contributed to that particular chapter. Then I also talked about money, and I talked about under the sheets, and that's intimacy. Then I talked about enduring to the end, some of the challenges and the perspective that we need to have if we are going to reach to chapter 10, which is the living happily ever after. I shared the actual truth about what it means to live happily ever after. So I don't want people to think that happily ever after is just a magical experience. It is going to come with work. It's going to come with discipline. It's going to come with practice.
Absolutely. Now, I'll be very honest with you, viewers. Dr. Hoyte and her husband have been married for 35 years. My beautiful wife and I have been married for just 3 years.
Don't just say just because that's
No. When I say just, right? Let me get that correct. I feel like I still got my training wheels on because it's a growing and continuous process. But you touch on some very pivotal points, and we're going to get into it.
Okay.
You talk about children, you talk about finances. A lot of, I haven't seen it, but we talk about, and I'm sure you have an opinion on infidelity and spending time living with a spouse before being married. Shacking up, as we call it in the BVI community. When you look at young couples, persons who have a good intention, persons who see the vision and understand they may or may not be of a Christian background, but their intent is sincere, what encouragement would you give to them?
Okay, that person, no, I have written my book based on Christian principles,
Correct.
right? But even if a person doesn't commit to living after the principles of the book that I've written, one critical thing that I believe every marriage needs is commitment.
Okay.
And we also need to honor our vows. I believe that vows are a sign of the commitment that we are making, and they're not to just be said lightly, but you're making a promise, and that we should keep our word. Nowadays, people tend to think that, okay, I can say something to just get by. We want to challenge people to get beyond that, because that type of idea and mentality is in our relationship. We have just said vows because we could have, but I want to challenge people to let them know that you must honor the vows that you have made, the commitment, the decision that you made of your free will that day when you committed to be husband and wife. You must live that out. You must understand that those vows that you've taken will incorporate, and in those vows you will have challenges, but the vows is what should help you to stay true to the things that you've said to each other.
Looking back on 35 years, we talk about finances. And before we get into the looking back on 35 years, how important of a role when we look at the chapter that you presented, and viewers, I have my very own copy here, which has been autographed to my beautiful wife, Kim and I. when you look at finances, let's start there.
Yeah.
It has been known to
Yeah.
make or break many marriages.
Certainly.
In a day and age where women are independent, they hold their own. I use you as a very good example because you've been working continuously while serving in the ministry and as a
Yes.
wife for a very long time.
Yes.
But still contributing and giving back to your corporate responsibility of earning a living.
Right.
You have a day and age where women feel as though, and husbands as well, it's either one or the other. It's almost like a competition in certain senses, right? Persons feel as though if you come into something with a lot or you come into something with little, it alters. When you talk about finances in this chapter of your book,
Right.
what exactly can we expect or look forward to?
Okay, now, and in chapter 4, I think it was, or chapter 6, 7, I talk about money. But in chapter 1, when I talked about the right start, essentially before a couple becomes married, there's a level of understanding that that couple should come into that relationship with. Because we can be influenced, or our view concerning money could be very much influenced by how we have been raised, by the type of friends, the environment that we have, our general perspective. So having the right start or the right opinion or understanding about finances is very critical to how you're going to face financial challenges in the marriage. When I got married, I understood that my husband is my head.
Yes.
He's my leader. And it didn't matter whether I earned more money than him. It didn't change who he was to me. I understood that finances, that everything we did would do together because we are building a family. Okay. Two becomes one. There was not my money, his money. Everything belonged to us, belonged to this family. So we never had financial issues. To this day, we never have financial issues because we had that general understanding. It has not changed. We are building a family together. So everything we do is together. So our view of money has not changed actually during the years. So for any couple getting married, you must come with a general understanding. We must take time to see these signs when we are developing that relationship. We must discuss them too before we get married as well.
Now, you mentioned about premarital. Tell us about the importance from your vantage point of premarital counseling. Because you spoke about having the conversations and really sitting down and having the conversations, but a lot of persons don't like to include a third party. We
Right.
don't like to include whether it's a family. You come from a structured household. One of a very good example, and I hope that's okay for me to mention,
Yes.
of local indigenous families that have sacrificed and really committed. But there are a lot of persons who may or may not come from that household, but even with or without, it is very uncomfortable for human beings to include a third party, whether it is a pastor or a counselor,
Right.
or someone saying, just a mitigator.
Yeah.
When you speak about premarital counseling, how important is that for you and persons to really realize the importance of having a conversation prior to tying the knot?
Well, any profession takes time to really master the profession, learn the skills. Marriage is for a lifetime. It's not a career as such, it's a lifetime. And so for me, as a counselor, I want to prepare the persons who come to me adequately. I don't want them to enter marriage without the correct advice. So I am responsible for the persons who come to me for counseling. I am there to guide them. I'm there to instruct them. I'm there to teach them. I'm there to help them to see what is required of them, the seriousness that comes with making this commitment. I understand people's setback or drawback from having a third person involved. Why? Because they think that people are not very confidential in terms of disclosing. So they are reserved in terms of opening up themselves to another person. But for me as a counselor, my husband and I are biblical counselors. We are licensed ministers. We have made pledges and vows and commitment to the institutions that have certified us as a standard that we are going to uphold. We will do our clients a disadvantage if we do not adequately prepare them. There are many aspects of marriage we think that persons are not aware of, that they need to be prepared for finances. They need to talk about in-laws. They need to talk about children. They need to talk about money. They need to talk about intimacy. They need to find out, are there any physical challenges? Are there any baggages that is going to come into this relationship? There are so many things and areas that have to be discussed. The approach that we take as counselors, my husband and I, as we train people, we don't talk. We don't just talk. We don't just lecture. We allow our clients to become engaged. We allow you to work. We set homework. We set assignments for you to go. We discuss. We give you reading assignments. So we have a thorough practice that we have when we are preparing people for marriage. So premarital counsel is absolutely necessary. We will never marry anyone unless we have sufficient time to adequately prepare them.
Respectfully so. Viewers, I am enjoying the conversation, as you can tell. Experience the marriage of your dreams with the lovely Dr. Joycelyn Hoyte of the First Assembly of God, the truth really to living your happily ever marriage after. This is the book. I want to make sure that you guys can see the copy. Dr. Hoyte, for persons who might want to get in contact with you, not only for the book, because it's a very pivotal tool.
Yes.
We don't negate, or sometimes we negate the fact that reading is important. And not only this, viewers, but reading this as a couple, as a married couple, is also very important. And it's very important for us to understand the significance of really pulling that together and really accepting the fact that when you make those vows, like you've said, and you sign on to those vows and you really say, listen, this is what's going to take place. This is what we're going to do. We want you viewers to take those vows very seriously. Dr. Hoyte, before we go, one, how can persons get in contact with you and get this amazing copy of Experience the Marriage of Your Dreams? And also, how can they get in contact with you individually and your husband?
Well, I have a Facebook page, Dr. Hoyte. You can message me there. And from the launch on December 28th, I have actually sold out all my copies. So I'm expecting another shipment of books. So you can be able to message me there. I think many people know me in the community, but I guess if this reaches an international audience, you can buy the book, purchase it from Amazon.com as well.
Viewers, we thank you so much. You're watching 284 Media. We're coming to you live and direct out of the beautiful British Virgin Islands. As a married man myself, it is important for us to take marriage and the commitment seriously. This is not the reporter speaking to you today. This is Ron speaking to you, the husband, the father-to-be. Experience the marriage of your dreams. It is quite important and pivotal that we accept the responsibility as men moving forward, particularly at a very beautiful time, 2021. What better time to start? You're watching 284 Media out of Tortola in the beautiful British Virgin Islands. Bye-bye.